All right, good afternoon. Can we quiet down? I want to call the March 28, 2019 meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council to order at 2:05 p.m. Get a roll call vote, please. Let the record reflect that all 9 council members are present. Dr. Gouy is outside right now. If we can go through the agenda real quick and just give me all the deferrals or your withdrawals. Mr. Bartholomew, you have any? Mr. Bartholomew, you have any? Mr. Albro? Do you have any withdrawals? All right, pass over. Mr. Russo?
I'm asking the administration on the records retention schedule. You still want to defer that?
Yes, sir. The departments are, their reports are due on Friday, and I also told each department that I would meet with them for about 15, 20 minutes next week, just to make sure we covered all the bases. So I should, by COB next week, next Friday, have that submitted to the state archivist. And I also, if you guys would like to meet on that, some individual council members who are interested, obviously I'm willing to do that before we submit it to the archivist. So, whatever you'd like to do.
All right, thank you. I'll defer that at the request of the administration.
Anything else, Mr. Russo?
None.
Ms. Newberry? Mr. LaFrance?
None.
Mr. Blank? All right. 6B? There's no A. All right, let me go through it real quick. 1A2 is deferred. 6B is deferred.
The executive session is deferred?
Spoke to Mr. Garrett. He's fine with not the entire executive session, just the second.
Well, I would respectfully ask that you...
All right, well, I'm going for legal counsel, so I'll not defer it at Mr. Russo's request. All right, let's go back through it. Right. 6B is deferred, 6D is deferred, 6E is deferred, 6G is deferred, 6H is deferred. They're all in 6. B as in boy, D as in David, C as in Charlie, E as in Edward, G as in golf, H as in hotel. That's all. Yes. And also, for Mr. Gouy, 6A3 is also deferred. All right, with that said, we'll go to directly to executive session. We've got a couple attorneys to get out.
1A1, Stewart Consulting Group, Inc. versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 25th JDC, Plaquemines Parish number 60-296-B, Division B, Attorney Rennie Burris II, Councilmember Black. 1A2, receipt and discussion of attorney-client privilege communications in regard to potential legal issues as pertains to Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, its creation and governance, Louisiana Constitution, LRS 42:17A10, attorneys J. Kendall Rathburn and Danny Garrett, Councilmember Black.
I will offer expert second. Mr. Bartholomew seconds. Machine's open. Without any question or comment? All right, with none, machine's open. Passes 9-0. We'll break for executive session at 2:07 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting back to order out of executive session at 2:34. We do have one item to move to out of executive session. Let's move to item I.
A resolution authorizing Chairman W. Bo Black on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish Council to direct its special counsel, Danny P. Garrett III, to respond to any petition filed by the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District regarding seeking a final declaratory judgment from the appropriate court as to the legal source of the port's jurisdictional, organizational, and governance authority, and whether such source emanates from the Louisiana Constitution and LAR.S 34:1351 et sec, or from Plaquemines Parish Charter for Self-Government.
Right off with the changes I passed out on line 16 through 37. With that, second by Mr. Russo. Any questions or comments from the table? Any questions or comments from the audience? All right, with none, the machine's open. Resolution passes 9-0. Tell you what, Mr. Lapine, let's go to you and your, you ready for your status report? No, go ahead, status report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members, audience. Today, we received a letter from Judge Connor about the drug court, and I just wanted to share it with you guys because it pertains to you and the government. And I'm not going to go through the whole letter, but I'll summarize it. And it says, in June 2009, the 25th GDC was awarded a sub-grant for the Louisiana Commission of Law Enforcement and Administrative Criminal Justice to implement a new adult drug court program to serve the community of Plaquemines Parish. The continued growth and success is attributed to the efforts of the team members, agencies, stakeholders, partners directly linked to this program, included but not limited to the Louisiana Executive Branches, the Louisiana Supreme Court, Plaquemines Parish President and Council, Plaquemines Parish District Attorneys and Assistant District Attorneys, Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office, LA Department of Public Safety and Corrections and Probation Officers, and Plaquemines Parish Public Defender's Office. I just wanted to, he's recognizing us, and I wanted to share that letter with y'all. Tonight, they're holding the YMCA is hosting a March Madness Palooza at the auditorium from 6 to 9 tonight. The Biddy basketball schedule playoffs are this weekend in Phoenix, starting Saturday and ending up on Sunday. The ferry will be out of service Sunday in the Belle Chase area for repairs for the steering system. The work will begin Saturday night after closing, and we will provide updates if the ferry will come back in service early on Sunday. Now, since the Belle Chase ferry will be out, the Point LaHash ferry will be operational, and it will run on the 15-minute increments just like the Belle Chase. So we know that they have the Biddy basketball playoffs, and so this will run not 30 minutes, but 15 minutes increments. This Saturday, they have the One Sack Challenge Crawfish Boil, Saturday on the Pavilion grounds from 11 to 5. Please come out and support this event. On April 5th, there will be a hurricane exercise at the Myrtle Grove Marina and the Myrtle Grove Fire Station. The PPG Office of Homeland Security will be joined by the following agencies: Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office, Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, St. Bernard Emergency and Preparedness Department, St. Bernard Sheriff's Office, Louisiana National Guard, Louisiana Air National Guard, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry. The exercise will start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I think the governor and his staff will actually be there too. So please join us in that exercise. April 6th, there will be a breakfast with the Easter Bunny and the Easter egg hunt at the Buras YMCA from 9 to 11. And on April 11th, the DA will hold his annual Senior Citizen Day at the Percy Griffin Center from 8:30 to 12. And before I close out, I'd like to bring, I told you last meeting that starting May 1st, we will have a new fire superintendent, Jonathan Butcher. Would you come up to the microphone? I'd like you to introduce Jonathan to the council. And starting May 1st, he will start as superintendent. And I'd just like to get him to introduce himself and tell him a little about himself, and then that he can maybe get y'all contact, his contact, starting soon. So Jonathan, get a few words.
All right. Thank you, President Lapine, the council, and the audience for allowing me to have a few minutes to introduce myself. Jonathan Butcher, 128 Hunt Street, Belle Chase. I've been with the department since 2010. I started on a truck as lieutenant, worked my way up to the current rank as captain and a position of training officer. Starting May 1st, I will be taking over for Mr. Roy Robichaux. He's retiring, and I'll become the superintendent of fire.
So thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you.
And I implore you to get the information
leave.
from the council member. Yep.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions from the table, Mr. Russo?
Yeah, first I'd like to congratulate you on your
Thank you.
promotion and wish you well. And hopefully you'll be able to work the EMT and fire department as one department. I know it's a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that you may be up to. And if you have any comments, I'd like to hear them.
Yes, sir. We'd have to look at the new classification plan for that. We do have some ideas what we'd have to do in order for it to work, but we'd have to create a new classification plan.
Mr.
Right
Cha-
now, it's in kind of two different systems, and I know that the council's been wanting to merge fully and make it one operational department.
So it hadn't been merged yet?
They are merged, but it's technically still, the EMS does follow under the parish. They are not in the fire department retirement system. I believe maybe there's 2 EMTs that are, but they're new hires. Anybody else is still under the parish.
So we're not talking about under the state and fire parish again, are we?
No, they're still,
I am.
they're not fully into the fire department retirement system or the civil service system. That's why we got to create that new classification plan. There's a few things that we'd have to do. I'd be willing to talk to anybody about it personally,
Okay.
if you'd like to.
Well, thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, since you
sir.
mentioned that.
Yes, sir.
It's, I think it's the proposition that was passed for the fire department was passed by voters, and the intent was to provide fire protection throughout Plaquemine Parish, not to include EMS in the fire department mechanism for funding because it was voted on by the people. So if you're going to do that, I think we need to go back and bring that proposition to the people to include that into the fire department. Other than that, we're in violation. I don't care. Attorney General was just an opinion. So that might be another thing we need to get a lawsuit for and get that straight. But at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money that voted on one idea. They didn't have 2 ideas, they voted on one. That's just my opinion now. So that means that we have issues. My issues on the East Bank is we don't have no firehouse at Woodlawn, and we did a report. It's terrible. The building itself, they have rats, rodents, leakage, and we have mold. All kinds of cannot be used in that fire building itself. Then Point LaHash is rated at a 10, and the 10 is not even having the fire department.
Well,
I'm just saying
Before
what
you,
it is.
before you answer, we're kind of getting off scope. You want to
No,
go to?
I'm just putting it on there for you to go. Wait, I'm
I
talking.
mean, well,
Let me talk.
and I also sent you a copy of the rules from our attorney about what you can and cannot talk
What
about.
we ha-
Yeah, but I did, this was brought up under the discussion.
I know, Mr. Bartholomew.
I call for a judgment on the
Mr.
chair. I'd like to get a vote from the
I'm
council on the
asking-
chair.
I'm asking you a question. Do you want to go to that item in which
No,
is,
I'm just discussing what he's discussing, what they were
No,
talking about.
you
They was
brought-
talking about the EMS and all that.
I know, but you
predicated.
bringing up a fire rating,
Well, that is.
which is, Mr. Garrett, can you please
Go ahead, don't
weigh
worry
in?
about it. Go ahead.
I'm asking if you want to go to it
Go
legally.
ahead. I'm gonna have him, I'm gonna come under, discussion of District One,
All
if
right,
you're
there
still
we go.
here.
It's simple.
But
It's not under
the
District
problem
One.
is.
You have it on the agenda,
The
John.
problem
I'm just asking
is,
if you want to go
it
to that.
needs to be corrected, so that is. We don't have a firehouse, we got 10, there we are.
so would you like me to wait till the end of
Yeah,
the
you
meeting?
gotta
Yeah,
wait.
because we're not talking about it anymore.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Booth.
All right,
Thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
And Ms.
Let me just clarify for everybody. I spoke to Danny Garrett, our council attorney, after we had this issue last council meeting, when we get off scope. Mr. Garrett sent a lengthy email to all council members, any administration, to include Mr. Burris. We had a subsequent discussion about the laws that we have to follow for open meeting laws. This is not something the council chair is making up, or anybody's making up, or even Danny's making up. This is the law. I'm just trying to control the meeting to make sure that we follow the law, period. Mr. Bartholomew has it on the agenda, so when he brought it up, I asked Mr. Bartholomew if he just wanted to go to that item. That's all. We cannot get off scope. I have to run a meeting accordingly and by the law, so I hope that answers everybody's questions.
Okay.
Mr. Lapine.
Okay. One more thing in the presidential address, and I just want to wish a happy golden birthday to Miss Jenna Bowles. I know she's 28 on the 28th, so happy birthday, Jenna.
Okay. All right, any questions for the president from the audience? Come on.
If I could have just 1 minute to make a compliment, that's okay?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Thank you. No, I
Excuse
just
me,
want.
excuse me. I think you have to see if that's on the agenda.
He
Making
just told me,
comments.
no, he just
Oh, it's
told me
not
I
on the
was okay.
agenda, though. You can't.
You told me I'm okay, right, Mr. Black?
Mr. Edwards, I'm certain that you will follow the law, unlike Mr. Bartholomew, who likes to skirt a little bit every now and then.
Thank you. I'ma
So if
show
you would
you-
like to go ahead.
I'm gonna show you. No, I just really want to come out and really compliment Mr. Lapine on. First of all, we had some volunteers in town, and him and the director at very last minute knew they made it possible. But also was in a meeting with the guy John. He's not here, the coastal person, and I really was impressed because it's been a long time since, as a community person, have a meeting in the community with a coastal person, and I thought he did a excellent job and handled himself real well, and it was very encouraging to see that happen. So I just wanted to compliment you on that, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. And coming from you, that means a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With no more comments, we'll move to proclamations, please.
A proclamation declaring the month of April 2019 as Fair Housing Month in the parish of Plaquemines.
I'll offer and ask for a second. We'll vote on this first. Mr. Gouy asked for a unanimous second. Do we have a unanimous second? Yes, we do. Machine's open. And the proclamation passes 9-0. Any questions or comments from anybody? All right, with none, we'll move to bids and advertisements.
Would you like me to read
Yeah,
it?
go ahead.
A proclamation declaring the month of April 2019 as Fair Housing Month in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas the 51st anniversary of the National Fair Housing Law, Title VII of Civil Rights Act of 1968, during the month of April is an occasion for all Americans individually and collectively to rededicate themselves to the principle of freedom from housing discrimination whenever it exists. And whereas this law guarantees for each citizen the critical personal element of freely choosing a home. And whereas a fair housing law has been passed by the state of Louisiana, and implementation of the law requires the positive commitment, involvement, and support of each of our citizens. And whereas the department and agencies of the state of Louisiana are to provide leadership in the effort to make fair housing not just an idea, but an ideal for all citizens. And whereas barriers that diminish the rights and limit the options of any citizen to freely choose a home will ultimately diminish the rights and limit the options of all. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, William Bo Black, and by concurrence of the parish president, Kirk M. Lapine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares the month of April 2019 as Fair Housing Month in the parish of Plaquemines.
All right, thank you. We can move to bids and advertisements.
There are
We
none.
have none. All right, beer and liquor permits, Mr. Bartholomew,
None?
Mr. Albro, Dr. Gouy. I have one. 239 Victoria Drive in Belchase, the Plaquemines Heritage and Seafood Festival, from 5/17/19 through 5/19/19 on 333 F. Arabia Boulevard for club fundraiser. Ms. Newberry? Mr. Franz?
None.
Mr. Blake? Pablo? None. All right, with that, we'll offer.
Second.
Second, Mr. Solomon. Machine's open. And it passes 9-0. All right, building
Chairman.
yes, sir?
Take them global, please.
Yeah, do we have any objection to take them all in Globo? All right, none. We'll take A1 through 6 in Globo.
LL Wax LLC, application number 2019-138, dated February 25th, 2019. Install 4-inch pipeline, Diamond Area, Councilmember LaFrance. Number 2, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2019-173, dated March 7, 2019. Install 4-inch flow line and 4-inch gas lift line, East Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 3, Brian Willis, application number 2019-187, dated March 12, 2019. Install pilings for boathouse and walkway, 121 Deer Range, Myrtle Grove, Phase 1, Councilmember LaFrance. Number 4, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2019-199, dated March 15, 2019. Install 4-inch injection line, Rattlesnake Bayou, Councilmember Blink. Number 5, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2019-200, dated March 15, 2019. Dredge, install pile clusters, drill the gap to prospect, and install wheel head protector, 2-inch and 4-inch flow line, Lake Washington Field, Councilmember Blink. Time Energy, LLC, application number 2018-789, dated November 6, 2018, install 8-inch flow line and 2 30-by-30 manifold platforms, Point Olahash Field, Councilmember Bartholomew.
I offer, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance, offered by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Machine's open. It passes 7 yeas with 2 abstentions from myself and District 9, Mr. Kotovich. All right, introductions, ordinances, and resolutions. Mr. Bartholomew.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan for the replacement of Point Olahash Ferry Ramp project and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to rescind an annual set-aside ordinance number 19-35, which appropriate $53,400 from the fund balance designated for emergency to appropriate funding of the fund 8 part-time lifeguard position, otherwise to provide respect thereto. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Albro.
Yes, I have 8. A resolution to amend and as amended readopt resolution number 16-148, section number 4, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 911 Services Fund operating expenditure budget, 911 Services Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 Manpower Structure Public Health Fund, Animal Control Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 Manpower Structure Public Health Fund, Animal Control Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 Manpower Structure Public Health Fund, Animal Control Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, General Fund, Ferries General Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Employee Training Department, and the Drainage Stock Shop Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 Boat Harbors and Shipyards Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Boat Harbors Department, Port Eads Division, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. I'm done.
The most I heard you talking to you.
Dr. Gouy. Mr. Russo.
None.
I have 1, resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to provide assistance to the Plaquemines Parish Heritage and Seafood Festival and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all I have. Ms. Newberry.
I have 2, an ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 1935, which appropriate $53,400 from the fund balance designated for emergencies to appropriate funding to fund 8 part-time lifeguard positions and otherwise to provide in respect thereto.
Is that all?
No. An ordinance to amend the 2019 operating expenditure budget, Public Health Fund, Health General Department, otherwise provide in respect thereto. That's it.
Mr. LaFrance.
I have 1. An ordinance approving a plan to re-subdivision of Lot A-1 Woodland Commons, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 8 and 9 and A-3 Woodland Commons, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plans and plat of survey of Duframe Surveying and Engineering Incorporated, dated January the 16th, 2019. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the Plaquemines or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise with respect thereto.
None? None? All right. Ken and Amitra, you guys, well, I don't know about Ken. Amitra, you want to go? You want to get out of here? All right. All right, 6-1.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5-E Belle Chase Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plat of survey of Cypress Park subdivision, Phase 1A by Bryant Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February 5, 2019. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the F. Edward A. Bear realignment at LA 406 project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer next for a second. Ms. Newberry seconds. Ken, everything's good on the final?
I wrote my approval down
All right.
on permit form. There's a few things that need to be addressed, but until they're addressed, the streets are going to remain closed to the public.
Okay. All right, any questions, comments from the table?
Yes, I have one.
Ms. Vitale?
My concern is infrastructure. Do we have infrastructure to support that subdivision?
Yes, we do.
It's been signed off by
Yes, it
Dick
has.
Robert Morgan.
That's on the final, yes.
So we have enough. We can handle it.
Yes.
Just don't like to make sure we can, because we steady building, but we don't have a lot of infrastructure to accommodate.
Yep. Any other questions, comments from the table?
Yeah, I have one.
Mr. Russo?
I noticed that in these subdivisions on the agenda today that we're dedicating the impact fees to a realignment of F. Edward A. Bear on 406 intersection. Is the parish hired somebody to do the engineering on this state project, or have we done this?
No. Myself and Mr. Lapine has met with RPC and DOTD yesterday. We got, and Mr. Dugas as well. We got full cooperation and a promise from RPC to actually provide us $2 million towards this roundabout project at that particular intersection. I believe DOTD is a new in-house engineering on it. The funds that we're collecting on impact fees is the 20% match. So we'll basically create a roundabout at that intersection to alleviate a bunch of traffic issues, as well as better safety measures at no cost to the parish.
Except the 20%?
No, we're going to use the impact fees that we're getting, because it impacts that intersection, to pay the 20. That's the 20% we're going to use to. It's an 80-20 federal match.
I know, but I understand. But the parish earns these impact fees from the developer, and
Right.
you're saying it's not our money; it's the developer's money. Is what you're trying to say?
Well, I mean, it becomes all money, but we wouldn't have had it without the development. Therefore, with the development, we take those impact fees from the development,
Right.
keep it within the district that development's taking place in, and providing it towards the place that's actually impacted. We're going to, I think it's a smart move to use the money to put down as a 20% as opposed to pulling out other general funds. So this is basically just a transaction where we take the impact fees from the developer, goes into this project code, and then when RPC asks for the 20% match, we have that money available to us. Never touches the general fund.
So it doesn't touch the general fund. So
Well, what I'm saying is we're not pulling money from the general fund.
well, it's going to go into the impact fees, which go into the. Let's
Yeah.
get off of that issue. Let's just move to the bigger issue. I would recommend that. I know that you have decided that's what you'd like to see at this intersection. I've had concerns expressed by some of the public about putting a roundabout there after they drive down a Woodland Highway and all of a sudden come to that intersection and going around a circle. So I would hope that somebody would call a public meeting on this to inform the public before the roundabout gets there, so they'll have an idea of what we're really doing here. know
I
it's
think
a
I'm,
state-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I know it's a state highway, and like any state project, we should have a public hearing. I realize it's in your district, but I have a lot of constituents that drive on Highway 406 or Woodland Highway, going to Algiers and so forth, and their comments to me about the roundabout that's at the other end by the bridge, having another roundabout there, they have expressed some interest in talking about this. So all I'm saying is, I think that we should have a public meeting in the Belle Chase area that's well advertised, and let them know what's going on with this.
Well, I appreciate that, but I can probably assure you that I have a lot more members in my district that actually use Woodland Highway than you do in District 5. But what I will say is I've had extensive discussions with the state, with RPC, with DOTD, and we came to the conclusion, as well as the parish engineer and the parish president, that roundabout would be appropriate because we have $2 million to utilize from federal funds. And then let me just give you a little bit of fact on a roundabout and why we chose a roundabout at that intersection. We do have a daycare facility on Keating, which I think we both have folks that go to that school. And we do have an elementary school and a primary school on F. Howard Hebert. My major concern is safety. And when you do, I pull up a federal study, and then a federal study says at an intersection such as that, a two-way stop-controlled intersection to a roundabout, that a roundabout, so if you had two stop signs, one from F. Howard Hebert and one coming from Keating onto LA 406, that putting a roundabout has an 82% reduction in severe crashes. A signaled intersection, so if you wanted to put a red light as opposed to a stop sign, and instead of doing a red light, putting a roundabout, it's a 78% reduction in severe crashes. So a red light would be about $800,000 to do, and the two-way stop sign would probably be a couple $100,000. So I think for the safety of just one kid, because we have multiple buses coming out of that intersection, a roundabout is the way to go. I mean, that's simple, it's paid for, doesn't come out of the general fund, there's no parish funds being used for it. It's all from impact fees. And I've spoken to my constituency about it. I spoke about it in a town hall that I hosted in my district, which, as you know, that intersection's in my district. I've posted it on Facebook. I've talked to many different people. Yeah, of course, there's going to be some learning about how to actually utilize a yield sign, but I think that's something that I think our constituency can probably overcome with some ease.
And I'm not arguing the merits of the project. All I'm asking for is to have a public meeting so the public that do not live in your district, that are not in favor of it or are in favor of it, at least know what's going on. But I understand if you want to go that route, I'll yield.
Okay. All right, any questions from the table?
Bo.
Mr. Blake?
Just for clarity, to help paint a picture here, I mean, this would include realigning to where these two streets are coming out at the same place?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, you take F. Howard Hebert all the time, and you come up to a red light.
Sure.
A blinking red light, a stop sign, and then you have about 100 feet or so down to the right, another intersection.
Sure.
And in the morning times, you have total congestion. People coming in and out. If you come in the afternoon, you look to the west, it's a blinding light from the sun. You have a bunch of school buses. It's just something that needs to be done. The state agrees with it. It hits the warrants. And, I mean, yeah, so basically the only thing that would really be realigned is F. Howard Hebert, but that's going to be part of the state project.
Got it. And one other thing, for proposed future expansion on 406, would this be almost like set up as a 4-lane from the start? So if that road is 4-lane in the future?
So we shut down that 4-lane proposition in total. It's, like I said, 406 runs through my district. My constituency doesn't want to see a 4-lane on Woodland Highway. We want to see improvements to Woodland Highway. And, we met with the engineer, we met with DOTD. They don't have funding for a $20 million 4-lane Woodland Highway project. So at the roundabout, it's going to be 2-lane as it is now coming into the roundabout.
So, with the future toll bridge coming online, I think, a lot of folks are going to be headed that way, and just, maybe that could be looked at, for possible future needs.
The problem is I think that in the proposal, and I don't want to speak out of school, but I think in the public meetings that you'll hear coming up the toll bridge is that if there's a competing access area like a 4-lane highway, then then the proposal may take longer to achieve that, no. What? Yeah, to pay it off. So the folks who are proposing says, well, if there's an alternate route as a 4-lane, it's going to take longer to pay it off, therefore we're going to raise the toll. So if we want to take a chance of putting a 4-lane at $20 million, which we don't have the money for, and put a 4-lane there, which then, you know, honestly, I don't want, maybe you would do down in your district, but I don't want a Manhattan Boulevard or a Lapalco Boulevard or a Terry Parkway running right through my residential district. And that's the decision I made as the councilman for that district. And like I said, with the state, I don't want to see tolls go to $3 a piece because they have another route that's, you know, a 4-lane highway.
Got it.
But, you know, I think all these meetings are open to the council with Secretary Wilson or and Mr. Russo. You sit on RPC with myself and Mr. Lapine. So
Yeah,
they're gonna put a project number on it at RPC next week. Next week, Kirk? Or, yeah. Well, next time, yeah.
Yeah, well, let me just say this. I do sit on RPC, and this has never been discussed at a public meeting. You might have had meetings privately that discussed this issue, but it has not been brought up at a public meeting, in which I sit on at the public meetings. So I understand what's going on behind the scenes, but I also want to express that I have no part in killing any effort to 4-lane Woodland Highway. And so that's a decision that you and maybe Mr. Lapine have made, but in the long run, I want to make sure that it's clear that I am not opposed to 4-laning Woodlawn Highway, which has been in the works for many, many years. And for whatever reasons that y'all chose to do it, then that's your business. But at the same time, that's one reason why I think that a public meeting should be held, because I sit on the RPC, and this has not been discussed in public. It's been discussed in private meetings. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, but with that said, I'll just make it clear that I'm not going to put words in Mr. Lapine's mouth, but I, as the district councilman in which 406 runs in its entirety, told RPC I don't want a 4-lane in my district. So I'll take all the blame or credit for that, because I've spoken to my constituency. I've talked to them in person, via Facebook, via town hall. So as long as I'm in office, I'm going to be opposed to a 4-lane. If you want to go, and I'm for roundabouts, I think it's the best thing to do for the safety of our citizens. If you want to go against that at RPC in 2 weeks, then go against it. That's fine. But it's a fully funded project, and you know that's where it's at. But this has nothing to do with a roundabout. This has to do with subdivision. So we get back to subdivision.
Well, as a point of order, it has everything to do with a roundabout, because the money that's in this ordinance says it's going to that project.
All right, well, that's where I want it to go. If you don't want it to go there, then vote against it.
Councilman Chair.
Yes, Mr. Oriel.
Councilman Hubble or Trudy could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this not brought up at Chris Leopold's town hall meeting at the middle school? So, I mean, it's at least started this discussion in the public.
Yeah, it's been brought up in many public
well,
venues.
Right, but that one was advertised.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Albro. Any other questions, comments from the table, from the audience?
More than 20 years ago, I bought the property that's kind of in the center of this neighborhood. And
Can you state your name and address, please? I'm sorry. Your name and address.
Melissa Nance, 3203 Main Street.
Okay.
I purchased it, and it was in the midst of purely rural real estate. And 20 years ago, I did that because I wanted to retire in a rural section. This builder, with the plans that he's proposed, as well as more that he has intended to propose, is talking about building 1,000 homes in the end, very near 1,000 homes. And don't tell me no, because some of them haven't been discussed yet.
How have they been talked about?
I said they hadn't been brought up.
You said they've been talked about, but
I said they had not been talked about here. I can't even see on this map how many houses he's going to surround my property with, but I can see 37 of them already. From 7 in the morning, the earth sometimes shakes from all of the trucks with the loads of dirt he's bringing in, which has some wisdom to it, I'm not arguing it, but when he finishes loading up all these neighborhoods, and my residence has been flooded more than 4 times this year, how are you not going to make a cesspool of my property? How is this not going to make a cesspool of my property? And then the issue of the ditches, which cost developers so much money. This is the only developer that I know of that's been allowed to put in Belchase in recent years a development that has ditches. When I was younger, I was able at a tender age to buy a piece of property. They covered the ditches, and I went across the street and I asked, I said, why are they covering the ditches? I mean, it's really awesome. I got a new parking spot because they covered the ditches. But why is the parish covering the ditches for me? And they said because it was a health issue with the mosquitoes. That was the explanation. And now here we're going backwards. I feel very railroaded, and I don't feel as if this council has considered themselves with my issues as well. And you're representing me. That is what you were elected to do, is to represent me too. And I want to be represented here. And I want the damage that's going to occur to me to be a consideration in these discussions as well. There's green space in this neighborhood, and in his other neighborhoods, it's around the outskirts. These green spaces are on the inside, and he could have easily put a green space on the outskirts of mine. He called us up a couple of weeks ago because he wants us to move our property line so he can make more money. Somebody should be considering me and should not be asking me to move my entire piece of property to accommodate him. Now, I recognize the council isn't doing that. He's doing that. But I want someone to represent me too. Thank you.
Okay, one more question, Ms. Newberry.
Ma'am. Ma'am. Hi, I'm District 6, and I have a rural area. So I would hope that increases your value of your property where you live at. Will that increase the profit of your value of your property?
A lot of people have talked about the increase of property, and I really appreciate the fact that yes, and I will not deny that this probably will increase the value of my property.
Well,
but I didn't purchase it for the value of property. I purchased it for the value of my peace.
I understand. I just want to welcome you to my neighborhood. I live in a rural area, and we do have property for sale, so if you change your mind
it's too far from my family.
It's 10 minutes. But understand,
I'm just
asking you, if you want to be my neighbor, you can come down to District 6. I'm sorry. I'm just welcoming you to my neighborhood, that's all.
I would prefer to have your protection in my own neighborhood. Thank you.
Yes, Warren Lawrence, just one point of clarification. You said when they do an impact fee, does the impact fee, when a developer comes in, go to the general fund, or where does it go that they say they're taking this impact fee, because it's not going to affect the general fund, but if it went to the general fund and you take it away before it gets there, then...
Well, let me answer that. So by definition,
okay,
impact fee is to provide infrastructure or other improvements to the area that it's impacted.
That's correct.
Right. So what I want to do is, instead of just putting this money into an account within the general fund that can be distributed for any project, we have a project at 406 and FOA Bear that's only going to cost us 20% of $2 million to do, and that area is absolutely impacted. So with the funds that are coming from the development, those impact fees, I just created a separate account within the general fund, but a project account that specifies that the impact fees go to the area that it's going to be impacted. This may not have ever been done before, but it's probably the way it should be done, especially if a district council member has a development in which they get impact fees, have an account set up within the general fund that is for the area that is impacted? Because isn't that what the money's supposed to go to? The area that's impacted?
I don't think so. I mean, it's going to go to the whole parish.
No, but the whole parish isn't impacted. What's impacted is that particular area.
If the parish is affected on its water system, its sewer system, its schools, or any other thing, that's the impact fee is to be met to, not just for a, I'm not.
Right, I get that, but it's my job to prioritize,
Okay.
you know, what is impacted the most. And I think that the situation on Woodland Highway is impacted the most, and I think that we could alleviate that issue on that project.
And I can understand your point. I was just trying to clarification that if any developer comes in here, whether it's at Myrtle Grove or anything else, the impact fee didn't stay in the area that it...
Well, that's historically, you're right, absolutely right.
Okay.
And what I'll say, Mr. Lawrence, is whoever developed Myrtle Grove Estates, what I would have suggested at the time is the impact fees from that go to Myrtle Grove Estates area.
Well,
and maybe have improvements, you know.
Yeah, no matter if...
Or maybe afford to put, plastic pipe instead of corrugated metal pipe.
Right. I'm just saying if the impact fee, no matter if it's from a plant coming in, where does it go? And I was under the impression, and I guess you said this is new, so it doesn't follow the old trend.
Yeah, it's just a new concept that I'm trying to do. I think we have a good project. Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Black.
Mr. Kadovich?
So if any industry and all comes in, it gets an impact fee.
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Mitra or Ms. Rose. Impact fees when it comes to industry, do you have like the set rate on that?
No, sir.
So there's no impact fee?
Is there? Oh, I'm sorry. It's $2,000 per lot for...
No, not for a house. I'm talking about commercial, like industrial development.
No, sir.
Okay, so no.
So
they may have something with Infomark or something, but not with the subdivision ordinance.
But for every oil and gas permit we just passed, they don't put in money to a fund or anything like that?
Only the permitting fees.
So, because now we could earmark all the money that's future money coming into the parish. I want it for Highway 11.
Yeah, I think if you have money that...
Fort Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that by legislation, of course, if you have the legislation, and that's what I'm trying to encourage. If you have legislation where you receive funds for that particular area that's impacted, why not put in the legislation? I mean, that's your obligation or right to do.
So I could introduce the ordinance to next meeting. Any money coming into South Plaquemines, I'm going to earmark for South District 9.
You can do whatever you want.
No, it don't depend. I could take all the money that's coming in from District 9 now. If you could take your impact study, I could take all royalties.
There you go. I mean, think about talking about apples and oranges, but
no, it's the same thing.
All right. I mean, that's fine. No, that's fine. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You're a councilman. You can put anything you want on an ordinance. So, Mr. Henry?
And I just think there's a danger in that with Councilman Mark said, and every councilman take the position. Well, I don't live in your district. I can tell you I'm maybe one of few people at East Bank of the River. When I get off the Belchaz Ferry, I make that right and go down Woodland, and I use that English term regular. So while we don't live in your district, there's a lot of people throughout the parish
I understand that.
who deal with that area, and even though it's in your district, you know, and I don't know what gauge you have in to test how many people in your district use it as opposed to other people, you know, to make that absolute statement you're making. But it's something that affects everybody in Plaquemine Parish, not District 2, because most people who have to go to Lower Coast, Algiers, an area, take that Woodland Highway. And so that I think it's something that you should look at that affects all of Plaquemine Parish, even though you're the councilman for that district, because the attitude you take, if every councilman take that problem, then I can see it causing a serious problem with the parish because you're only thinking about your district.
No, I'm thinking about the entire parish, everybody that drives down that street. And we're talking to engineers from within the parish, from within the state, from RPC, from DOTD, so it's multiple people. It's not just Bo Black's decision.
Well,
so my question is to you, I mean, so what's the alternative?
But I'm just saying, well, this is what I'm going to say. So when Mr. Roussel made the suggestion, about having more public input.
We've had that. See, Mr. Russo just didn't.
Well, no,
come to
no,
the
no,
meeting,
no.
so it doesn't
I'm
mean
not
that-
getting
that we
into.
never had it.
I'm not getting into with you and Mr. Russell, and I heard Councilman Corey ask Councilman Mark about it, but I wasn't aware of any kind of meeting because I try to make a lot of meetings because I know I use that area a lot. We have a lot of members of our church live there, so I'm forever going taking that English turn area. I'm using that all the time, at least 5 days out of the week, 3 times in one day I go there. I'm just saying, I just think it's something that everybody in Plaquemine should know about, and not just District 2, just the Belchester district. That's all I'm saying.
No, I appreciate it. I mean,
You get a
you know,
view, you can get a view from other people. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
Chris Leopold did have a meeting, a week ago, and the guy from DOTD, somebody asked him questions about the roundabout, and he brought it up.
Yeah, we've had multiple public meetings about it.
But that wasn't on, excuse me,
Mr. Solomon?
that wasn't on the agenda when it went out in the public. So I'm letting you know, because I read the agenda.
All right, I call a question.
All right, no, well, you ain't finished yet.
No, I call a question.
But
Machine's
object.
open for a vote.
I object. I call the council vote to vote on the objection of the chairman. Call the roll, please. All the council.
All right, we'll do it. I call the question, and Mr. Bartholomew chooses to erase the machine, John, please. Open it back up. I don't think you can do this, but we'll see what
We did it
happens.
before, we did it before.
Well, I don't think it's in the rules.
Yeah, I do, let me see what I have to say.
All right, well, I called the question. Mr. Bartholomew objects to the question, so we're voting. If you vote yes, then we continue to discuss.
Yes, if you vote yes, you give it to me.
Mr. Garrett.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Hey, look, that's all right, let it go call. Go ahead, man. Rescind that, don't worry about it, Mr.
right.
Council, I ain't gonna vote.
Machine's
all
open.
this stuff.
No, the machine's open on the vote on this particular ordinance. All right, and the final approval on the re-subdivision fails 4-5. I would anticipate legal action, Mr. Brown. No, this is on the, that's on the ordinance, Mr. Bartholomew.
I know.
That wasn't on the thing. So, I mean, you have a developer that spent probably a few $1 million, and we'll vote no if it's on them. All right, item 2.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Glenn and Sandra Fleming, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the map of re-subdivision of Glenn and Sandra Fleming into lots F-1 and F-2, Hermitage Village by Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated January 14, 2019. Revised on January 28, 2019, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. LaFrance?
Not so often.
Second by Mr. Russo. Mr. LaFrance?
This is just some property that, in Lake Hermitage area, and the gentleman want to subdivide, split it up, and sell it. All the buildings is there, has been established already. Mr. Major, you would like to add anything? Is there any question from the table?
You're correct. It's just a resub to make separate lots of records for buildings that's existing to be able to be sold or leased.
Question's been called. Machine's open. Yes, sir. Mr. Bowie?
This is just my observation. It's possible that on item 6A1, that there may have been some confusion on the vote, being that, was it a vote for the ordinance, or was it a vote for whether the question could be called? And I know on this end of the table, we felt like it was on the ordinance itself.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to explain.
Well,
I need somebody.
A question. I didn't hear everything you're saying when you
I
when you
just want
stop.
to hear you, Mr. Goy.
Because I can't.
Yeah, John, I can't hear either, so I understand, believe me. No, you know, we talked over here.
I understand what you said.
Okay.
But the question comes up, you have to be on the prevailing side to reconsider.
Right.
And if you're not on the prevailing side, then you cannot reconsider.
So, yeah, so somebody who voted no, if you wish to bring it
That's
back
right.
up, has to ask to
Has to be
reconsider.
the one to reconsider.
So if anybody from,
Oh,
who
that's
voted.
a very good point. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
if anybody wants to vote no, as Mr. Goey just brought up, to
Right.
reconsider, speak now.
Speak
and we'll
now, have
reconsider.
all your peace.
Or otherwise, if the ordinance fails.
Subdivision goes down.
Move on.
All right, with none, it fails.
Whoa, is that something?
All right. Item 4.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of the Parks of Plaquemines, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plat of survey of the Parks of Plaquemines, Phase 1D, being a re-subdivision of a portion of Section B of Belle Chase Plantation into lots 54 through 78 and lots 172 through 177 by Bryant Hammond Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February 28, 2019. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the F. Edward A. Bear realignment at LA 406 project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Mr. Albright seconds. This is Phase 1D of the Parks of Plaquemines. Mr. Dugas, they ready to build on this thing? Everything's good?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, which number are we talking about? Yes, 1D is approved.
All right, thank you. All right, this is basically voting on whether or not you want to build another 700,000 to $1.5 million homes in Plaquemines Parish and receive that tax revenue. If you don't, vote no. If you do, vote yes.
I
It's
got
all
a
been
question.
approved. Mr. Howe, yeah, go ahead.
I got the same problem with this one I have with the other. I ain't got a problem with people building as many houses as they want. I got a problem with you earmarking the money already to go to a certain project.
All right, well,
Could that be teased out?
no, I'm not teasing it out because it impacts that particular area. And, I mean, we're talking about $100 and something thousand that, what I'm gonna do, pay lifeguards with it? Or would you rather me, improve the area that it's affected?
Yeah, I'd like you to fix a pool.
All right, well,
You can find money for other things, can't find the money for the kids in District 9.
it's not my job to find the money in your district, Mr. Howard.
I keep asking for the same money you got, and I was told no
Which money?
from the Peters Road extension.
Who told you no?
They told me it had to be in there.
Who?
They told me it had to stay in there.
Who said that? Because if I want money from a project, I just put it in an ordinance and then the council votes.
Yeah, that's not.
I'm just
Point of
letting them know. All right, Mr. Bartholomew calls point of order.
Because that's the way you do me.
May I just say something to my fellow council members? I know y'all drive that and y'all turn that intersection. I drive it several times a day. My wife, with my children, almost every day, several times a day, school, soccer fields and all. It is a great safety concern, and I will ask y'all to reconsider that. With that being said, the amount of children we have pulling out onto a highway that they're going 55 miles an hour on. Just think of the children.
Point of order. What item are we talking
That's-
about? This is something totally
Yes,
different.
no, this is the same question we had earlier. about the roundabout, which the funds from this goes towards that impact fee, so it's not a point of order, it's just
Okay.
within the scope.
I mean, y'all give us this legislation. I don't have no maps. I don't have the slightest idea where this is at.
You've been having it for a couple weeks, just go pull it, you can figure it out, look.
No, I don't have to figure nothing out. It should be presented to us.
Let's go.
We should need
I'll
maps.
vote for it, and I'll reconsider the other one. We'll re-vote on that one, but just remember.
I'm fine with that.
Let's go.
All right.
Mr. Black?
Mr. Gouy?
I have to echo what Councilmember Arbor said. If you're trying to get on that highway, just for me, coming out the council office, not the school buses, not the moms and dads picking up their kids, not the people that will be coming out the subdivision. You're taking your life in your hands. You sit there and you look for a spot where you can get in there real quick. And the visuals are not that good, especially for people that can't turn their neck too good to see. It's a tough situation. And with the fact that Councilmember Black brought up about the safety reduction, increase in safety, I think it's a no-brainer that we really need to consider making sure that that roundabout gets there to improve the traffic in that area from both directions.
Well, let's make 65 on Belchase Highway roundabouts, because every street coming into Belchase Highway
But the issue is
the same
this
way.
particular spot, just this spot. There may be other spots, of course there's other spots.
There is.
But he's talking about this spot and the money
Go
from
Sleef Drive when you're coming out or pulling in, and somebody's turning out of the Taco Bell and blocking the lane for you to drive in.
I'm sure we can make a list. I'm done.
Thank you. All I'm trying to do, Mr. Kognovich, is to take money that is being provided by the folks who are developing these areas, these neighborhoods, and instead of getting money from the general fund or emergency fund or anywhere else, take the money that otherwise we would not have, so we're voting down, basically, a neighborhood, a development that's providing the funds. So we wouldn't have it anyway if we didn't have the neighborhood.
Well, like I said, I'd reconsider, after this vote, we reconsider the other.
All right, well,
one.
if there's any other
I'll
questions?
give you your money.
If there's any other questions for from the audience, from the table? All right, with none, machines open on this. And it passes 7-2.
I'd like to reconsider 6A1.
All right, Ms. Marcotte, got a reconsideration on 6A1.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5E Belchase Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plat of survey of Cypress Park Subdivision, Phase 1A, by Brian Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February 5, 2019. Though not having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost of the Plaquemines Parish Government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan for F. Edward A. Bear realignment at LA 406 project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Garrett, are we voting on the motion to reconsider, or are we voting on the actual ordinance?
First, you have to vote on the motion to reconsider.
Okay, so
that has,
I'll offer, ask for a second.
You can't offer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kognovich,
I'll
you
offer.
Ms. Newberry seconds. This is just on the motion to reconsider, then we'll vote if it passes on the actual ordinance.
You got to vote twice.
Okay, we're voting twice. So the first one is actually reconsider. And it passes 7-2. All right, Ms. Marcotte, on the actual ordinance.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5E Belchase Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plat of survey of Cypress Park Subdivision, Phase 1A, by Bryant Hammond Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February 5, 2019. Though not having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost of the Plaquemines Parish Government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the F. Edward A. Bear realignment at LA 406 project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
All right, I'll offer and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Albert, seconds. Any questions or comments from the audience? Or from the table? All right, with none, machines open. And it passes 6-3 with no votes from District 1, District 5, and District 7. Thank you, Mr. Kodovich. Consideration.
I'd like to know how much all royalties we get a year. Because I'll be putting into keeping all that in the districts they come from.
That's not on the agenda today, unfortunately, but I'm sure Finance would be happy to meet with you on the oral royalties.
All right, thank you. Item C. Mr. Gu, you moving on item C?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, C, please.
Yes.
In ordinance to revoke, rescind, set aside, and abandon any dedication of public road, right-of-way, servitude, public use, or purpose of those certain portion of Avenue H named as set forth and delineated on any and all maps or other documents of Belle Chase Town site situated in the town of Belle Chase, Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to recognize, declare, and provide that said portions of land affected by that certain portion of Avenue H as described and delineated have been abandoned for public uses or purposes and have never been used for public uses and purposes, to recognize, declare, and provide that said lands underlying and affected by the said certain portion of Avenue H and any public servitude or public dedication over and thereto are abandoned to the legal and rightful owners provided by law.
Also move.
Second.
I offer, thank you, Ben. I'll second. We were approached by the Croatian American Society have an effort, a purchase agreement, to get 2 lots in the area which borders Avenue G, 1st Street, and 2nd Street. If you're familiar with where East 3rd and Belle Chase come together and you get that long lot, past councils rescinded street, H Street, in order to make that lot continuous and not have that dividing line. Well, adjacent to that is the property that the Croatian American Society wishes to purchase in order to develop a cultural center on that property. So Mr. Tesvich, John Tesvich, approached me because it's in District 4 as to what had to be done to make that happen. After several meetings with legal and with Infomark regarding sewer and water and the parish engineer's office regarding drainage, the ordinance was crafted to the satisfaction of the parish and to the satisfaction of the Croatian American Society. With that, John, if there's anything you would like to elaborate on regarding this, please feel free to take the podium, or other than that, offer the floor for anyone with questions.
I have a question. Again, you present an ordinance to subdivide or take property or use property. There isn't any maps.
Oh, okay.
We need to know where it's at.
Can I take a second to show you? Yeah, I agree. You're right. Should have gave you a map. Been on the table for 6 weeks. Nobody asked me. It's a little bit of homework.
It's normally presented with a map. I mean, I know the district demand
You're right.
for,
It normally is.
it's normally produced a map, so don't be looking like he,
Yeah.
Part of the process.
Don't take me wrong. I apologize for not providing a map. I should have done it. This is, this piece of property.
Make sure that happens all.
I'm gonna let it go, brother. We're gonna let it free fall from right here on out. I ain't got nowhere to be tonight. I'm gonna fight tomorrow
I ain't
night.
got nowhere I can sleep. No, I gotta go home.
This is the road here that goes to
Put ice on my knee.
Yes, that's like the ferry landing, the whole engineering, this is the levee. These 2 pieces, you want to make one so they can build if anyone else wants to see the map, I'll make some copies real quick. We can push this over and go to the next item. Let's do that.
All right.
No, we'll go through this. Let's pass it over.
Next.
All right, who's next?
6F.
What you want to do? F? F? No, go ahead.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Coastal Zone Land Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Kognovich?
I'll offer.
Kognovich offers. Ask for a second. Mr. Blink seconds. Mr. Kognovich?
As read.
Any questions or comments from the table or from the audience? All right, with none, the machine's open. Item 9-0, item J, please.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 Manpower Structure Legal Services Department and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for a second.
Second.
Say, Mr. Kognovich, this is legal department. I believe Maggie, one of his folks in his department retired, and they just using those funds to transfer duties from one to a paralegal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience, from the table? All right, with none, machine's open. Mr. LaFrance? It passes 9-0. Item K, please.
An ordinance to amend and as amended readopt ordinance number 15-22 adopted February 26, 2015 for the Director of Recreation and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Mr. Albert seconds. Any questions or comments from the audience? From the table?
What item?
Item K. This is an ordinance, this is reclassifying the job title of the Director of Recreation and the reporting structure.
Not making it classified.
Yeah, well, it's unclassified now anyway, but it's
Stays
same
unclassified.
salary, same classification level. All right, machine's open.
Oh, I have some
hold
questions
on.
on this.
Mr. LaFrance? I got one from 6 weeks ago.
Well, that was supposed to be having a wage. It ain't there. They got rid of this a long time ago. But now they just want to close that and make it one piece of property. And they'll be able to get onto the road over there. That's the property they buying.
There isn't any position as associate director.
Right, and there wasn't a position in 2015 of Director of Recreation. Mr. Byrd created the position of Director of Recreation, and there's, at the council meeting a few months ago, there was some confusion as to what's the difference between a director from the charter, which is classified in the charter as an administrative director, or a director that was just kind of made up. So we just got with the administration, and we came up with the term associate director, which is by legal definition a director that reports, to a director.
Again, there isn't any position like that. I think the correct position should be a superintendent, being that you want to, to go back to the structure the old structure and answer to a director, then that position should go, it should go back to the, as being a superintendent.
Okay, well, I'll call for a vote on this one, and then if it passes, if you want to do an ordinance to defund this position, use the funding to create a new classified superintendent position within the civil service, you're a councilman just like I am, you have that ability to do it. That's all I have. Any other questions from the table?
I have a question.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Does this require civil service to put this into the?
No, it's unclassified position.
It's unclassified?
Yes, sir.
And we have to go into the budget and put this position in, the workforce unclassified position.
It's already there. We're just changing the name from director to
Well, that's another title.
associate director.
So it doesn't matter what the name?
No, it doesn't. Well, legal knows. That's what they told me to do.
Legal? Doesn't matter about changing the name from what it's different name? I don't believe it. Doesn't. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'd like to make an amendment where it says, whereas the job title for this position, 340-6201-01, will be recreation, and said, I would like to add amended to saying promoted to superintendent.
Okay, the problem with that is, I'll just say, you know, we're going to vote on it, but I'm going to tell the council that there's a legal problem with that because a superintendent is a classified position, and we can't do this, go from unclassified to classified in this particular fashion of an ordinance. So if you want him to be a classified employee, then you can do a whole new ordinance repealing the entire ordinance from Mr. Burton 2015 and then creating a classified position of refunding the classified position of superintendent, at which time civil service will advertise the position and you can use the funding from this position to fill it. But
He's not guaranteed to get the job, though.
if you go, yeah, right. This one, he keeps his job, same salary. You're just changing the name from director, which is confusing to a lot of people, to associate director.
You know, I have a problem with this. Again, I have a problem with this because ever since this gentleman had gotten this job, you always had a problem with it. You kept on picking with him, kept on picking with him. This man has bust his tail over again, and he do a great job. He do a great job for recreation. Things that we ask to be done, it get done within 24 hours or 48 hours. But seems like to me, ever since this man got this job, Mr. Black, you got a problem with him.
Actually,
And I have the floor, and he has been promised that that this job position would never change. He wouldn't have a problem with his job. He was promised this by the president, but now he's sitting there. You're sitting there, you're not saying anything. Listen, this parish here, we know the history of this parish. We're looking for equality here. We have to press this president for justice. We want equality and opportunity regardless of creed, class, and color. We want a parish where we can prepare the future for our kids without discrimination for our children. If you make a promise and you don't keep it, what are you? You're a liar. He haven't cut his promise, and he never fulfilled it. If my people which are called by the name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive our sins and heal our land. So don't look to them, look towards God. Look to yourself, because the Bible says, so as a man sow it, so shall he reap it. Who's ever first shall be last, and who's last shall be first. And I'm telling you, this is an injustice for this employee because he do a fine job. He from this parish. He graduated from this parish. He do a great job. I've been asking for 3 months to get some grass cut around our school at the elementary. where we dealing with pigs, alligators, snakes, and I can't get grass cut around a school on parish property. But here this man busts his tail over backwards, and now you're trying to do this to him. I see this man work on Saturday with him and his father trying to keep our park up. I'm not supporting this.
I need to interject for two legally significant purposes. The first is, what's significant for civil service is the duties that are performed. And so the duties by the gentleman aren't changed. Civil service has looked at those duties, and the position remains unclassified. The reason the chairman wasn't using the word superintendent in the ordinance was just because classified personnel do use the term superintendent. And so because the gentleman would remain unclassified, I think that's why the chairman tried to stick with associate director. And the other thing is I just want to make sure is that it seemed as though Councilmember LaFrance interjected with an amendment, and I don't know if that was, anyway, I just want to clarify if you guys vote on this that we don't have the problem we had earlier, if it's amendment or if it's on the actual ordinance.
I have a question. My concern is that if there's nothing wrong with the gentleman doing the job, then we don't need to change the status. He's not going anywhere. So why change the status that he's already been established by the council, prior council?
All right, so let me clarify that. I just want everybody to understand that I don't have a problem with Director Henry. The issue is a formality. There is an ordinance that creates the Director of Recreation by Mr. Burt in 2015, which, yes, we voted on.
I voted for it.
Okay, right, yeah, me too. Which creates Director of Recreation, and in that ordinance, it says that it reports directly to the parish president. Period. The parish president wishes to have that report back to where it says in the charter to the Director of Public Service. And let me just read it real quick. Article 5, 5.01c. The Department of Public Service shall be headed by a Director of Public Service who shall have general management and control over all matters related to the public utilities, telecommunications, solid waste, health, hospitals, environmental control, recreation and recreation facilities, libraries, and community centers. All this does is to avoid the confusion of having two people called the Director, one be called the Director by the charter as an administrative officer in an organizational chart, and one be an Associate Director. It's the same exact pay. He has the same exact duties. He just reports to the charter director as opposed to reporting to the parish president. That's it. I mean, that's as simple as it can be. The problem is we had, y'all talked about this in early January, that it's confusing to have a director or multiple directors who are not charter directors called directors. We're just trying to create a new title that clarifies that for everybody. And we have to fix the ordinance for Mr. Burt that says he reports right to the parish president, because it is an ordinance. So I'm just changing the name title because it clarifies the position.
It is an ordinance, Mr. Black, that you supported and Mr. Lapine supported.
I did, but
so what you telling me what y'all supported and voted for was wrong? Is that what you're saying?
No.
What did you say?
Well, it's not wrong. At the time, it's a different administration. Mr. Cormier Jr. asked Mr. Burt to have the Director of the Superintendent of Recreation position not filled. He wanted to create it. This is Mr. Cormier Jr., not the third. This is back in 15. He asked, President Cormier asked Charlie Burt to create a position of Director of Recreation and make it unclassified. That way he can appoint a Director of Recreation. And that's what he did. And we all agreed. Let's have a separate Director of Recreation that reports directly to the President and see if it works. Since then, we went through a couple different directors. This is a new administration who has taken a stance that he's going to have 3 directors. That's it. And
I do believe with my memory that Mr. Cormier Sr., I think when he came into office, he established the Superintendent of Recreation.
No. No, he didn't. No. He actually took it away and made it and asked Mr. Burt to do the ordinance in 2015 to unfund the Superintendent of Recreation, and it's in Mr. Burt's ordinance 15-22.
I have it here.
So, well, there it is. So he asked him to defund that position of superintendent, use the money, and then create an unclassified director of recreation. That was Mr. Cormier Jr. did that, and we said, okay, he's the president, and at the time, we agreed with it and said, okay, that's the way he wants to go. We agreed. At this time, there's a new administration and things have changed.
So every time we have a new administration come in, there is always going to be set up different.
It could be.
I think we got a problem with that. I think that's why we need to put this gentleman underneath civil service and get that over with.
Okay, but let me just say, if you want to do that, you can do an ordinance.
Well,
that puts
if you remember in January, I asked the president, I would like to work with you on that, and then nothing has happened. And it's 3 months now.
Mr. Lapine?
And Mrs. LaFrance, did you call me, or have you ever set up an email?
No, because you.
Hold on, I got the floor. Like you said, I have the floor.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, and I resent that you call me a liar about my word with Mr. Henry. And in fact, I'm going to yield to Mr. Bartholomew. We had a casual conversation Tuesday night. And in that conversation, you asked me about Tony Henry. And what did I tell you?
Remember exactly that you didn't have a problem with Mr. Henry. And you agreed, you support him 100%.
Okay. I support the man. I do. I asked Mr. Black to do this so I can put him under director of public service, not under direction of me. Take the director off the table. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't have a problem with Mr. Tony Henry. You might think I have a problem with Mr. Tony Henry, but I do not. And let the record show I do not. Okay? So he created this so we can go under Mr. Epling as director of public service, under my suggestion. Thank you.
And what I'm saying is, the charter says that you have 3 directors. And the civil service says, civil service says you have a superintendent of recreation. There isn't any spot that say associate director.
That's what exactly what we're
you
trying to
keep on playing
fix.
with people's lives.
Nobody's playing with anybody's lives.
This man has a wife, children, and everyone he has to take care of.
He's not losing his job, and he's not losing his salary.
Y'all go on and do what you want.
I don't understand what you're saying. The superintendent position has been defunded by Ordinance 1522 at the request of Mr. Cormier Jr. and Mr. Burt did the ordinance. And we all voted for it. And then Mr. Lapine said, let's put him back under Mr. Eppley so we can be in line with the charter and to avoid the confusion of having 40 directors. We have 3 directors.
Let me see what I got to say.
So if you want to do an ordinance that says put it back as a superintendent for civil service, this is what's going to happen. You can do that, or you can introduce it now or whatever. You can do that, but the problem is he's going to have to go apply for that job, and it's not guaranteeing him to get it. This is guaranteeing that he keeps his job at the same exact salary. All you're doing is changing the title of the thing. So, I mean, look, with that, I'm going to call the question. This is not on the amendment.
We haven't finished discussion, Mr. Black. Haven't even had a chance to weigh in.
Well, and we had a debate, and I called the question.
I didn't get to debate.
It doesn't matter if you get to debate, read the rules, and you know the rules, Mr. Russo. Come on.
Well, object to the calling of the question.
Well, hold on. According to the rules.
I'll remove the call of question.
According to the rules, before you can vote on this, you have to get the opinion from the public.
Exactly.
You can't vote without the public.
And I've asked for public comment. No, you didn't. I did.
Well, I'd like to be recognized.
Go ahead, Mr. Russo.
Is it a possibility that we can solve this by keeping the title director and just changing the language who reports directly to the director of public service? If that's an issue?
To do what?
To just change, you leave the title as director of recreation who reports directly to the director of public service.
But the problem is when we first had this same ordinance at the table, everybody was confused about why do we have a director? Why don't we change it? If you want to change it, I can amend it like this. I can amend it to where we amend an ordinance number 15. Okay, if you want to, let me see. I can get rid of us and make it civil service. You want to do that? Would you rather do that, Mr. LaFrance? I can do that pretty fast.
No, because there's no funding for it. The guy
No, it
wants
is
the
funding.
job.
No,
There's no
that's what
funding.
Mr. LaFrance wants to do.
He's not
Look,
guaranteed the job,
That's what you want to do.
No, that's what LaFrance wants to do. He wants to make it civil. I'm asking a question, Mr. LaFrance. Do you want to make this position civil service as a superintendent?
He's not guaranteed the job.
I'm just asking him a question.
What I want to do is, I'll put forward at the next meeting an ordinance where I would have it.
Okay. Mr.
Yeah,
Turner?
and two things, I was going to suggest what Mr. Russell say on why it can't still be director and then report to the director of public service. And the other thing, I think, Mr. Black, you got to calm down. This is the democracy.
First of all, you're not going to tell me to calm down.
Yeah,
You're not going to sit there and preach to me. This is not your church.
No,
I'm done.
I'm saying you need
All right,
to calm down
I'll call the question. We have to vote on the
If you're
question.
going to be over me, you got to calm down.
Sir,
You
I
can't
am
like this
calm.
a dictatorship. No, you're not. You're not calm. You are really not calm.
Well,
you
that's
don't
your-
realize
that's
you're
your
not
opinion.
calm, and this is
That's your opinion.
You got to really be
I'm
calm.
going to ask you to sit down, or you're going to have to ask you to leave.
You need to calm down.
Can you just change it to director reporting to?
And
Make the amendment.
It brings up the same problem we've had.
A name's just a name, a title's a
Okay, that's
title.
fine.
But
I'll offer the amendment to say that on line, who reports directly to the Director of Public Service, on the first whereas, and Director of Public Service in the bottom. And if, offer that amendment.
You have a second?
second.
Mr. Kodovich seconds. I'll make one comment. This is exactly the problem we had the first meeting, when everybody was confused about having the name director.
I'm not confused.
You know, Mr. Black, I be on Facebook too, and I see the different comments, and it's not nice.
So just for the record, we're changing associate director to director. That's the amendment?
Leave it as director.
Leave it as director.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear it.
We're voting on an amendment that changes the language that says, whereas President, General Management, and Control of all recreation facilities are assigned to the Director of Recreation, who reports directly to the parish president. We're changing that language to read that in the be it ordained, that the duties and functions and general management and control of all matters related to the recreation facilities and so on remain under the Director of Recreation, who shall report to the Director of Public Service. So we're just taking out the associate. Yes. In the whereases, you just take out the word associate. Just trying to make some peace and get this meeting moving, that's all.
Is that all?
Which one? 1, 2, 3. Take out the third. 1, 2. Under Dr. Goui's recommendation, we'll take out that third and fourth whereas as well. Yeah, we take out associate.
If it doesn't underneath civil service, they gotta put it out for bid.
What's that? I offer the amendment.
He gotta put
Second.
Anybody
By
can go.
Mr.
You gotta go
Konovich.
take
It's been seconded.
Call a question on the amendment.
Machine's open for the amendment. An amendment passes 6-3. Go back to the ordinance as amended. Mr. Russo?
Amendment's adopted. I call a question on the ordinance as amended.
All right, Mr. Russo, he can call a question. Let him call a question. All right. Question's called on the ordinance as amended. And it passes 8-1. Mr. Gouy.
Go back to 6C.
Go back to C.
Yes.
An ordinance to revoke, rescind, and set aside and abandon any dedication for public road right-of-way, servitude, public use, or purpose of those certain portion of Avenue H as named, set forth, and delineated on any and all maps or other documents of Belle Chase Town site to recognize, declare, and provide that said portions of land affected by that certain portion of Avenue H as described and delineated have been abandoned for public uses or purposes and have never been used for public uses and purposes, to recognize, declare, and provide that said lands underlying and affected by the said certain portion of Avenue H in any public servitude or public dedication over and thereto are abandoned to the legal and rightful owners provided by law.
That is the substitute ordinance that was passed out. The map, and look, I apologize for not including a map, and I'll take full responsibility for that. If you take your map and you have map viewer in the upper left-hand corner and page 1 of 2 on the upper right-hand corner, if you follow the diagonal highway from under map viewer running down the page to your right, it's a straight line. That's Highway 23. That Highway 23 curves, but if you see that line will continue as Avenue G, and at the end it ends up at the ferry landing. Everybody good? The 3 lots that are marked out with the black marker, the break between the 2 larger lots is H Street. Directly to the left, you see the 2 red pieces of property adjacent to the 2 marked out. That's where Avenue H Street was previously rescinded so that the property owner could use the whole piece. Croatian American Society is looking to purchase the piece that is marked out. And the street in question is the street that divides those 2 black lots. So that's the map. Does everyone kind of get a, orientation on that so we know where the property is?
You had 3 blocks, huh?
Well, the third one's not in question. Huh? It's not in question.
Third one.
Not. The little triangular one, that is not in question.
I would caution you to make sure you buy that railroad track right away, too. Point.
Hey, been down that road.
Exactly.
And just to reiterate, meetings were held with legal, Inframark regarding sewer and drainage, the future of that, drainage with the engineering department, and everyone has agreed that the language in this ordinance meets all of the specifications required. I'm open for questions, and Mr. Tesvich is here, as is the administration.
Cross question.
Yeah. Black.
That question's called, good. Chair's open.
That took a while.
Mr. Chairman, can we move on to meeting, please?
Yeah, you ready?
Waiting on you.
All right, we're on M.
6L, an ordinance requiring all developers to maintain and repair all street utilities, drainage structures, and other improvements within their development for a minimum of 5 years and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I defer it.
M's deferred. All right, let's do the
6M,
Yeah, 6M's deferred. That one we just read was deferred.
M, that was L.
All right, M then.
an ordinance to amend the five-year capital improvements plan, docking facility, Grand Bayou Road project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. LaFrance.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I can assist with this ordinance.
Go ahead.
This,
I have it. On line 11, it's blank. Want to put 195,000.
Are you offer with that change?
Yes.
Get a second? Get a second?
Second.
Mr. Economist seconds. Mr. France?
This is just to pay off this project that we had at a facility at Grand Bayou Road, that dock that Ms. Audrey had started, and it's completed, and it needs to be paid off. That's it.
All right, other questions for the audience? From the table? All right, with none? Mr. Russo, you mind turning your phone off, please, in the meeting?
Like it doesn't interrupt me.
You interrupted me. I mean, it's ringing.
You've been interrupting me all day, but you don't hold the meeting.
Really? Jesus. All right, item 7A1.
A resolution supporting the long-term renewal of the NFIP along with inclusion of the proposals in the current discussion drafts and urging the Plaquemines Parish Federal Congressional Delegation and the House Financial Services Committee members to support the renewal of the NFIP through 2023 and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo?
Seek a suspension of rules to take that matter up.
I'll second that. Any questions or comments on the suspension? All right, with none, machine's open on the suspension. Suspension passes 9-0. Ms. Marcotte?
A resolution authorizing the long-term renewal of the NFIP along with inclusion of the proposals in the current discussion drafts and urging the Plaquemines Parish Federal Congressional Delegation and the House Financial Services Committee members to support the renewal of the NFIP through 2023 and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo?
I offer this filed.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance.
Yes, what this does, it authorizes us to support, it's a resolution supporting the long-term renewal as was just read. And if you look at the whereases, it touches on the 5-year reauthorization, the forgiveness of the NFIP's debt, all the items that we've talked about last meeting. And what we want to do is send this to the Federal Congressional Delegation and the House Financial Services Committee members to support the renewal of the NFIP, as stated earlier when Senator Vitter was here, and which they will hopefully be assisting us with in Congress. So Dr. Gouy had recommended that we move in this direction, and I agree, and here's the resolution that we are going to forward. So with that, yield to any questions.
Any questions from the audience? From the table? All right, with none?
Thank you.
All right, pass 9-0. Mr. Bartholomew, item 7-2, District 1 update.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Mr.
I
Gouy.
do have a suspension that I'd like to discuss. I'll distribute it, and as it's being distributed, we received an email from the Police Jury Association regarding a bill that is coming up, has been introduced or pre-filed in the legislature, that in essence would take away the administration and collection of local sales tax from parishes and centralize them under the state. And what this resolution is, it's a sample resolution that the Police Jury Association sent to us. If anyone has a problem with suspending the rules to take it up today, I'll gladly just introduce it for the next meeting.
I'd ask you to introduce it. I haven't read it yet. And this is, I said I would ask you just to introduce it because I haven't read this yet.
Okay. Would you move back then to?
Yeah, item introductions, item 5, please.
Yeah. back to item 5, and I would like to introduce this. So you'll all have a copy, and I think, Barbara, you have a copy already.
Yes, sir.
Huh? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, just you have to read the instructions.
This is the introduction. A resolution opposing all proposed legislation, including but not limited to House Bill 57 of the 2019 Louisiana Legislative Session that transfers the administration and collection of local sales tax and use taxes to the Louisiana Department of Revenue and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's it.
All right, thank you. Move back to item 7.2. District 1 update, Mr. Bartholomew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Highway 15 still need an update and a proposed date of procedural thing when we're going to try to get this overlaid. I want to thank the, I think it's the grass cutters, the prom department, for filling in those drastic holes on the lower part of Highway 15 that kind of save a few people from running to having some serious accidents. I want to thank the administration for getting that done. That was done expeditiously after they saw what was really taken, after they realized what I was saying. But then right now we're looking for some information on the overlay of because it's steady crumbling as we speak. The other thing is the courthouse, the first floor, or is it the second floor, whatever you want to say, wherever the council chambers are, should be finished by a week, no longer than 3 weeks. Everything is just in place. Should be done by the week or 2 weeks, should be finished. And that's not including all the furniture aspect of it. That's just the completion of the construction phase and infrastructures. The pool, we still haven't got that together yet. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do with all the pools I suggest we need to look at in the parish to try to get them repaired to where it can be some satisfaction of not costing a lot of money. And what we did at the day event pool is that it cost us a lot, $20,000 plus we had to bill on water, just in keeping it, the water in the pool. We have a problem with that. And over the years, we spent some money, but evidently it wasn't effective. So we really need to look at what we would do with the contract that we get if and when it happens. The park at the event, I talked to Mr. Hellman about getting the wildlife to come in and restore or restock the pond with some fish like they normally would do. And he has a contact for that, and I appreciate him in his effort to try to get that done. Also, I've been talking to Mr. Beshel, trying to take some of the dirt off the back highway to go around that pond so we can make a rail, a road eventually, because we're in the process of buying a little train to go around in that area. And it would be nice once that happened, because that way we'll have an opportunity. And I was looking at the pond yesterday, and it seems as though we need a little more water, and we think we need to open that siphon from the river, because it went down real low. So I think we need to push it up. And on the grass cutting, no objection. It's going on great. We can see the difference. It's happening pretty well. I'm very appreciative of that as well. The upper end, we still have the problems on the water line in the Braithwaite area, but north of the ferry, which we're constantly being in danger of breaking periodically. By the time soon we put the high pressure, they blow. And also the asbestos line between White Ditch and Phoenix. By the time it's not, doesn't cause it. Asbestos causes cancer. And anytime you have water running through a pipe, you're going to have granulates that's running through it, and those things could scar that pipe and eventually could get into people's kitchen or home, and then over a period of time can cause us cancer. And I know they have something in Belle Chase as well, so we need to make sure we work comprehensively and global thing to eliminate all of the asbestos pipe in the parish of Plaquemine. And what else I have? The base football field out here, a lot of you came by, you looked at it. we're moving pretty well. I would like to thank Mr. Bishop and kind of arguments we had. We're carrying on with Mr. Lepine and Mr. Everybody else. He's getting it done, and it's looking real well. I rented a railroad track to the parish at their request, so y'all owe me for that. To smooth that out, it was the time, because it cost me some money to move that over here. So I'm just letting you know. We also are going to buy the grass to sow the field, because the Recreation said they don't have any money to sow the field. So I'm going to take some money that we can get out of our recreational program that we can do that with, to subsidize that, to eliminate that portion of it, to get that done expeditiously. So we're going to do that. And then I think within a week or two, we should be finished and be able to sow the grass and be done. The only thing is needed, we need to get the water back there. We have the pipes, all that's been here. We just need to get the money to come put in the water line to the field. That's already in place. And the other question asked Mr. Bishop is possibly whenever we can cut behind that football field, get all that grass done, clean, so that we don't have the opportunity to have snakes and alligators in there can come to the right front where people are going to be sitting when we start the football field. And we have seen some significant, I have seen some significant improvements. So I just want to let y'all know that, but they got some things still haven't been done, have been fighting for about 10 years. So I'm coming back, and that's all I have under this item. If you want me to continue with the fire department now, I can do that. You want to wait till they come up, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Fathabi. Go to item 6, discussion regarding the East Bank Fire Department's fire ratings.
Yes, my concern is that I know we just had evidently a fire, a fire rating, a fire inspection from the state came in, fire marshal inspection. I don't know what the rating is now, but prior to that, we were listed at a 10. And our problem was when we got listed like that, we only had like 3 people to show up. We never had 4 at the time. That was one of the sightings. The other sightings was water pressure. We have certain hydrants didn't have enough water pressure that was required. So I don't know where we are with that, because we got a lot of not uniform pipe, ununiformed, that causes a low pressure. And especially with the prison being a 2-story building, and it takes a lot of water. And also now we're coming on with the courthouse, which is going to require a 2-story building. It's going to require a lot of water. And also the Phoenix School requires a lot of water because of 2-story facilities. And we're going to have issues with that. So we definitely going to have to get something done to accommodate that, because God help us if something take place, 2 different fires, 2 different places, we're in trouble on this side of the river. Do you want to comment right now?
Yeah, actually what's going on.
Let me do this. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll talk about the Woodlawn situation.
Okay.
And that's my last thing. I
All
promise
right.
you. Woodlawn Firehouse was supposed to have been constructed in 2015. The money was in the budget. The money was there. And Mr. Black came up with the introduction and introduced an ordinance to incorporate the EMS during that time. And I voted for it. I did vote for it. And I was under the impression that it wouldn't have an impact on the construction of the firehouse for Woodlawn, which went under 2 hurricanes within 10 years, 5 years, I said. Katrina and Isaac. It was underwater. And that left the building unsafe. Health-wise, it was terrible. And it still is. So I was just commenting why we didn't get that done. And the chief said because of the EMS was into that program and took all the money out. That's why they had to do away with the Woodlawn Firehouse. People on the East Bank, as well as the people on the West Bank, voted for fire protection, for quality fire protection. That's what they voted for. They voted for fire protection. And they're not getting it. They're not getting it. So, I mean, I've been saying this, but I didn't have any money to sue the council. I know I couldn't get the lawyers to sue, get the council to vote on to sue themselves, as to get a declaratory judgment. But it has to change. We have to do what is right by that. Now, that's where I'm at. And I'm not going to stop until I find some way to rectify it. I'm tired of paying taxes on fire, and then I don't get the protection. Yeah. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the first thing with the rating, what's going on right now, they're in the process, the fire chief for the Point Lash Volunteer Fire Department, Superintendent Robichaud, they're in the process of obtaining all the information needed to send to PIALs, the Property Insurance Association of Louisiana. That's when your rating review will start. It will happen this year. I don't have a time frame on it. I'm not involved in it, but it is over for the course of the previous 5 years. So they're in the process of doing that. They will be re-rated this year. And until they come out and re-rate it, we won't have any information on it, but it will be re-rated this year.
What is the rating now?
They're at 10 right now.
Oh, and what that means? Just for public information.
Okay, it's as far as insurance information, it's you know, and I've heard you say this in the past, it's like not having a fire department. As far as what they say as saving insurance, you're right, if you're class 10, you are going to pay the higher premiums. But they do have, and let's clarify, they do have a fire department. They may not be saving insurance money on it. They are there for people to respond, get there quick. They have the training, the knowledge, and the equipment to do that. So it's not necessarily...
Let me say this. Okay. I agree with you 100%. Okay. We do have a fire department. We do have guys that really is very diligently committed at that firehouse. I'm not saying that they are there. But what I'm saying in the everyday life itself, when it comes down to saving money and insurance, it's just like not having anything there.
You're correct.
No.
Correct.
But they are, those guys really work. I can't say nothing about the people that's there. I mean, I go down there myself and visit, talk, see how they're making out. Sometimes I go get me a shot. You know, a shot in my butt. But anyway, a medical shot from the EMS. But anyway, they're very supportive of the people as well. At the same time, something come up that they are needed, they respond like that. Very
yes,
quick.
sir.
But the thing is, the people that pay the taxes are not getting what's due to them. Because some insurance companies won't even give them insurance. Some will not offer insurance because of the rating. But they don't know that the guys really work. But they don't go by that.
Right.
They go by the ratings. That's all.
Well, just keep in mind, I don't take over as superintendent until May 1st. Yeah. So I will look into it for you.
May 1st, great.
Yes, sir. And we will...
stay in touch.
Yes, sir, I will. We'll have transparency. And as far as the Woodlawn Station, once again, I don't take over until May 1st, and then I'll be able to check into it and see what's going on. But I know money was used to balance the budget.
Right. I'll give you a copy of that last report that was done by our health inspector, our inspector. And,
the Rating Bureau?
I beg your pardon?
The Rating Bureau?
No, Raymond Burr. He did an inspection of the firehouse at Woodlawn.
Okay.
I'll give you a copy.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
Okay, no problem. Thank y'all.
Any other questions, comments on that item? All right, with none, item 3, District 9, Mr. Kidovich.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the administration for all the help they did this Saturday at the Ducks Unlimited banquet. Also, I'd like to thank the employees that worked there that night. They did a great job. And I had this down before the meeting, so I'd like to thank Mr. Henry, Maida Prout, and the rest of the crew down the road. They do a great job on the ball fields. I talked to a man back at the Buras Boat Harbor, works for the Cheros. He says he's been cleaning it up. I asked him if he's seen the harbor master. He said once. He said if we could get him some shells, he'll fix all the holes. And they got 2 potholes on the going over the levee we need to see about getting fixed. The Highway 11 from Empire to Fort Jackson, they got a couple of places we put cones in them, or the cones done fell in the holes. They so big. And from the museum about a mile up to Vella's Garage, need to see about cleaning out them drains, because a little rain and the whole street floods. And I wanted to see about the pumps at Fort Jackson, to see if we ever seen about ordering any of them. The pumps at Fort Jackson?
The pump at Fort Jackson is manual. It used to work automatically, but it doesn't anymore. So I had Greg Simpson over drainage, and they watch over it, and they go turn it on every now and then. Before, Recreation was doing it, but sometimes they didn't get to do it, and then we were having problems with the pump. But last year we fixed the pump, and supposedly it's working still, but hadn't tested it in the last week or two. But so we're watching it.
They got the big pump on the levee that.
Yes, that's a backup in case that one didn't work. We never moved it out yet. So.
And in the field where the Crawfish Festival, do they have a pump out there too?
No.
Because it might need to dig that ditch out because they're by the entrance. It stays full of water over there.
Okay.
And then grass cutting. If you leave a tractor over there, I'm willing to cut it at the fort.
When is it? This weekend coming or?
No, April 27th.
April 27th. Yeah. Yeah. It'll be clean by then. I mean, usually Recreation goes and we go. We cut the bigger areas and Recreation cleans it up. And sometimes when Recreation can't get to it, then we're there with the lawnmowers that we use at the state school up there. So.
All right. And I don't know if you knew, Friday night we had an oil spill in the Venice Marina.
Yes, no, I know about it. I have a report to send to the Coast Guard. I also have to, there's a lot of paperwork involved in that. Ken and I will have to do it. Ken has taken up the shield and sword of doing the stormwater protection in the parish, and there's a lot of work to be done on it and a lot of regulations that we're going through, so that kind of ties into what we're going to be doing at all the marinas here, which costs money, which we're going to have to do or get fined. So we're working on that right now. I spoke to the Coast Guard yesterday for about maybe an hour, and of course I told them Tuesday I'll have a report for them, but we'll be at the marina probably tomorrow and Monday doing the other things we have to do. I have to have somebody come and pump out all of the oil disposal units down there.
Because I know that was a drum left at the shrimp dock.
Yes, it was not ours.
It goes back to cleaning up because
right.
The Venice Boat Harbor needs a good cleaning too.
Right.
And I know you wanted to have a meeting about the boat harbors, and I got a few other things that we could talk about then.
Right. Well, correct me. Do you want me to push that back? Because
yeah.
Okay. I'll do that tomorrow. I'm going to go to next Tuesday. And Mr. Blink, if you want to be there.
Or if you could put it late in that afternoon.
Well, I could do in the afternoon. They get off at 3:30. So we could do it after 12. We do the boats in the morning, not early. We do them about 9, 10. So what happens normally is I have a meeting from 8 to 9:30, and they go back to work at that time. So, but if you want to do it in the evening, that'd be fine.
All right. That's all I have.
Mr. Blink, do you want to change that? Is that okay with you?
Tuesday's an agreeable day.
It's a good day?
Yeah.
All right.
That's all
You
I
done? All right. Any questions or comments about that? All right. Item 4, District 7, Mr. LaFrance.
Thank you. We'll learn from you, Mr. Bathalny. Pool broke, AC broke in the community center in Port Sulphur. Slow work being done on Port Sulphur Library. Grass still ain't been cut. I've been asking for 3 months. The road on Highway 11 from starting right at Home Place is getting to be so bad that it's becoming a safety issue. Still haven't tore out our district on the southern end. And the Grand Bayou Fishing Rodeo will be April the 6th and the 7th. Y'all invited to come down. That's it.
All right. Item 7, District 5 drainage issues. Actually, I'm sorry, item 5, discussion regarding Port East security. Mr. Russo.
Yes, I'd like the administration to address the Port Eads security issue and give us an update. I know you sent us the contract. After reading the contract, it looks like we're going to spend about $16,000 a month to provide something, and I'd like you to expand on what we're providing there.
We have signed a 30-day contract with a company that will provide security, 24-hour security. When that 30-day runs out, we're not going to renew. You have an idea of what we can do?
Do I have an idea what you can do?
Is
that a question?
We have a 30-day contract with a professional service contract that we're going to pay for 24-hour security. That's coming out of my budget to pay for the security after the 30 days. If anyone has an answer or an idea, please forward it to us.
I'll forward it to you right now.
Okay.
In lack of funding, I would request that you check with the Port Authority and ask them to station their boat there 24 hours a day instead of at the Venice Boat Harbor. That will provide security at no cost other than to the port.
I don't think I'm in charge of the port.
I said you can make a request.
Okay. Okay, I'll make a request.
And if you make it in writing and they respond in writing, we'd like to know what it is. And so this company, Bear Logistics, is providing 24-hour-a-day security.
Yes.
Can I jump in here?
I yield to Mr. Blink, but I'll make some comments on closing.
Sure. Last Friday evening, I had a trip down to Port Eads. You know, my day job, I'm sort of an outfitter, and it was an overnight camping trip down to the beach at Port Eads. I was able to walk around the facility for about an hour and 10 minutes. I put my hands on every single doorknob and window and had enough time to climb all over the fuel tanks, and I didn't see anybody there. The next morning I stopped by. There were two individuals on the dock. And they explained that, you know, maybe they were using Wi-Fi or internet in one of the houseboats. I did knock on the door of the houseboats there, no answer. And look, if I were down there, I'd probably be doing 3-hour fishing trips too or something, you know. But I just, you know, do want, you know, to implore y'all that, you know, if we are, you know, paying a premium, that we are in fact getting the service.
Did you reach out to me and tell me all that information?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, that's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, I would implore you that you call
Sure.
me immediately when something like that happens, so we can fix it or adjust it how it can be done.
Absolutely, sure thing.
Okay?
In the future,
Not
I'll do that.
a week after, you know, I could have adjusted it that day if something has happened.
Sure.
Okay?
Didn't you have someone to contact you about a proposition to take over?
And I'm sorry, I apologize, but we had a meeting Monday with a group of people. Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew, for this. The gentleman reached out to us, a gentleman by the name of Tony Bruce, who has a bunch of investors and have a great idea for a facility down there. We saw the PowerPoint Monday, pretty impressive. My next question to him was to get in groups of 4 with the council members and pull them and have set up something. Time is of the essence. So I told them to reach out to all of you guys, set up that, and watch it, and look at all the points that they make. And I think they have a great presentation and a great idea. But I want to, again, thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. They came to me. No one's really knocked at our door. This is the first group of people that really have a conscious effort to move down there. And if there's someone else that you know or has an idea, please forward it to us. But I did tell them to reach out to all you guys.
Would it be prudent for us to do that during a council meeting? That way everybody is there, for them to do a presentation?
I did tell them if I can set it up for the next council meeting up in. Now, the presentation was kind of long. I mean, I can try to condense.
I don't know if it was prudent.
I can get them to condense it and come to the council meeting on the 11th in Belchase.
Yeah, that way everybody will be there.
That's not a problem.
If the council want that, I don't know. They may not want it. They might want it separate.
I just so happened to be at a restaurant in Venice when they came in, and they gave it to me, And I was impressed, and I told him, when we gonna sign the papers? I'm
Well,
ready. And-
See, we've been in contact for a while, back and forth, and I led them to deal with Mr. Garrett, since they're located in Baton Rouge. I also told them to deal with Mr. Rennie and the parish president to get them involved in, because whatever document that's got to be signed, it got to be approved by this council, and the contract, of course, had to be cemented by the president's office. And that way they know what they have to deal with, because there are other concerns in it that they have questioned about. They want to try to do something a little bit different. And that's what we need to know, so you can look at it and see it's beneficial. I think it's outstanding, just like Mr. Kurt says, and I think it's time for us to move and eliminate that oversee over cost and eliminate the problem. So thank you.
Well, I actually received an email from them for an update about the council, and I'll email him back today and say, we'll set it up for the 11th.
Everybody agree with that?
That's fine. Well, I'm just going to close and ask that, to ask the legal department to vet the contract for its legality and compliance with Title 14, RS 14:140, to make sure that the contract that we have in place is legal.
You talking about the security contract, or are you talking about the potential contract
I'm talking
with?
about the security contract that's in place now that we're paying with public funds. That's all I have, thank you.
All right, item 7, Mr. Russo, District 5 Drainage Issues.
Yes, at this time, I'll defer that item till the next meeting because Mr. Dugas and all have left.
All right, item 8, approval of the minutes from March 14, 2019.
Offer.
Second by Mr.
Albro.
Albro. Any questions? None, machine's open. All right, before we adjourn, just real quick for the record, I will be out of the country, leaving tomorrow, the 29th, until April 13th. Therefore, the Vice Chairman, Mr. LaFrance, will serve in my stead as the chair, Ms. Toops, for all invoices and every other matter.
I promise I will behave.
All right, good. All right. Call for an adjournment. Any offer?
Offer.
John offers. Mr. Gooey seconds. Machine's open. Adjournment's 9-0. We are adjourned at 4:40 p.m.